Hey guys, Omerko here, self-taught web developer. In my last video, we created full API with Nest.js. That API was for task application, which included the whole CRUD functionality. I wanted to expand that application, and instead of creating just backend application, I would also make a front-end one, and that way create full stack project, which you can see right now on my screen. So right here you can see that I have some tasks here. Those are pulled from my API. I could delete specific task, it works. I could even click on this edit and edit the task name, save, it will work. I could even go into the task title here, add a new task for the description, new task description, submit. That will also work. If I would refresh right now, we could see that all of those are saved. I am not using the database at all, but I'm using data on my API. I'm currently also running my API server, which is running from Nest.js, and there I have my data stored. So that's why the data is saved, and with both of those we are able to create a full stack application. We are having Angular 11 on the front end side and the Nest.js on a back end side. If you wish to know more about the API itself, make sure to watch my latest video, and you can find that down in the description. There you will learn how to create API with Nest.js, which is this exact API. So let's just jump into our project here and create full stack application. Well, for this video we are creating Angular application in combination with our Nest tasks API application, which we created in my last video. So let's just start. First of all, before doing anything on my Angular application, I will go back into my task app API, which is created with Nest.js. Here you will basically see task model that we have, controller with different routes, also task service TypeScript file that we have, which is handling functionality for those routes. One thing that I wish to have here is to enable CORS for my application here, which I will do by also here before my listen in my main TypeScript file. I will await and app.enable CORS. This will enable CORS and allow me to run my routes from the different local server from different port. For example, I will run Angular application on 4200 port, and I will also run Nest application on 3000 port. So those two will be able to communicate with this enable CORS method here that we have. Now that we handle that, I have my command here split into two. The left one will be for my front-end application. The right one will be for my API application, for my Nest.js. So here, now that I have that CORS enabled, I could just run npm run start :dev. So if I run this, Nest.js application will run basically. Once again, if this is too complicated for you, you don't know how I have that application, check my last video. You will have it down in the description. So to make sure that my Nest.js application is working, I am coming here to localhost 3000 and I can see this hello world, which is coming from my Nest.js. If I go here to localhost 3000/tasks, hit enter, I will see the data here, which is basically get route for my tasks that I have currently. Also, in my last video, while we were creating that task API, we tested everything through Postman. So here on my Postman side, we can see those routes, basically get all tasks. If I send that route, it will return those tasks to me. I could get specific task by the ID here as a parameter. It will return the specific task to me. I could create a task. I have a specific body for a task here. If I send that, here it is. Now I have 4 tasks instead of 3 in my data. I could delete specific task. It will return just the ID of the task that was deleted, and I could even update the task itself. But that's it basically. So we also worked with the Postman in my last application, and now we are ready to create our task application on a front-end side. So to generate application with Angular here, I will run ng new and I will create task app. That's it. Angular will ask me few things here. First of all, do I wish to allow this strict checking, stricter checking from Angular? We could go yes or no to that. I will go no. Would I like to add Angular routing? I will also go no for it because I won't have any routes. And which style sheet format would I like to use? I will go with simple CSS because we will focus now on the API itself and on those calls from the API. So we won't focus a bit on CSS. In matter of fact, we will add material to handle our styling of the task application. So now that everything is done, I could just go to clear this a bit, and I will go into I will route myself into CD task app, and now I'm in my Angular project, and here I could run just ng-serve -open to open up on a local server. So now let me close this Nest application. It is still running in the background, but I will show you this Angular application right now. The Angular generated the whole application for me, and here it is on my screen. This is the default part of the application. I am back in my command, and I could simply just open another one here to the right side of this, and just let me route myself back and task app, which is the Angular application, and just run code here, so I could open up the Angular application in a code here in Visual Studio Code. So as I mentioned in my last video, Angular and Nest.js are very simple. Well, Nest.js learned from Angular a lot. So in Angular project we have just simple app component, which has that code that we have on our screen. I will simply remove that. I also have CSS here for that main component, nothing inside. I have that testing file. I don't need that, but I will left it here. There is also component TS. This title could be fully removed. Then we have app module here, which is handling our application on its own, right? So all of this looks similar to the Nest application. So first thing that I wish to do is basically to install Angular material, SDK, and maybe even animations from Angular itself. So if you wish to add material to our project, here I closed my local host. You can do the same, and I will add I will use ng add at Angular/material here. So material will be now installed into our Angular project, and it will also ask us which theme do we wish to use from material itself. As you can see, we have different themes that we could use: indigo pink, deep purple, pink blue, purple green, and I will go with this pink blue theme right here. Enter on that, set up global Angular material typography styles. We can do that, that's not a problem. So yes, here, set up browser animations for Angular material, also yes here, and now material will start installing all the packages that we need for our Angular project. So once again, I can just run ng-serve here now to once again serve my project on a local host. While I'm doing that, I will come back to my Visual Studio Code, open up some of the files that are changed now. We can see that we have fonts now imported from material. We can also see that here there is also changes to the font size of the styles. We could also go to Angular JSON. Here we can see that material is imported with this pre-built theme here. Package lock JSON will show also the changes. If I scroll down a bit, should be somewhere over here. Let me find it. Here it is. Angular material is here. Package JSON, also Angular CDK, Angular material, and material on its own is also imported. So material is successfully imported into our application. If I would take a look now into my local host 4200, nothing is here. Basically, as I removed all the content from my app HTML component, I have empty folder, empty file, empty browser page here. So let's add some of the changes so we could see something. So first of all, I will go to index.html, and here where I have my math typography class on a body, this was also added by material. I will also add math drawer container. So save this and now check the localhost. And what we can see is that our background is dark at this point. So our theme is also successfully imported from material. So we have successfully prepared our Angular application. So let's now start with code. Let's first add the top bar that we will have at the top of our application. Here on my command on the left side I'm running localhost for Angular, and here on the right side I'm running localhost for Nest.js. So both of localhosts are currently active. To generate the top bar for my Angular application, I will run ng for generate, c for component, and I will use top bar as a custom text. I will also pass a flag here which is skip tests, and with this flag upon the generating of this top bar component, it won't generate the testing file for that component. As we can see, component is created and also app module is updated with that import from that component. So now back to my code, I could go to app component here, app folder, I can see that top bar component, and on my app component I will just use app top bar, which should import the top bar component on my main component of the app. To check that, visiting my localhost, at the top now I can see that top bar works text, which is the text coming from from the top bar component. So opening up my top bar component, here what I wish to do is to use a toolbar from material. I can remove this text here and just use math toolbar here, and that is it. Taking a look quickly into my command, here I do have something. If math toolbar is Angular component, then verify that it is part of this module. So we imported material into our project and we should be able to use a toolbar from material, but also while we are using components, different components from material, we should also specify and import specific components. So let's create a shared module for all of these components, and through that shared module import all of those components that we will need as we go through the project. So here where I generated my top bar, I will now run ng for generate, m for module, and I will use shared here, and that is it. I am currently generating shared module. Going back to my code, here in my shared module, if I open that up, I have that shared module imported. For this to work, I will go into my app module, and down after this browser animations module which was automatically imported from material, I will import shared module right here. So let me go back to shared module, and as I'm using those material components like toolbar, I will import those here into this module. To import that toolbar, here in my imports array, I should use math toolbar module, which is the model for the toolbar. I will import it here at the top with import math toolbar module from @angular /material/toolbar, and that is it. And if I wish this to work in different modules like app module that I have, as I'm importing shared module here, I will also need to export this math toolbar. So after my imports here, I will add exports array here, and I will just pass that math toolbar here. So now that I have everything in store, I will just close my localhost and run it once again so it could refresh its compilation here, and we could see the changes on our screen immediately. So right now on my browser I have this dark top bar at the top, which is coming from our theme, from the material theme. So toolbar is successfully working. Going back now to my code, on a top bar I will add here a text, maybe in a span element like task app, and on a math toolbar I will pass a color of primary. Let's check now. This is what we have. There is different color. The primary color for this theme is pink, and we have task app text here. So this will be the main workflow with material. As we are using different material components, we will basically import those components into shared module, and we will do that as we go with this Angular application. As we will work with the tasks here, I will need to create task component. So here I will clear this up a bit and now run ng generate component tasks and just once again skip tests. And that is it. So now going back to my code, I will close these open files and go into tasks component here. So first of all, I wish to create immediately that, the UI for my task component. For that, I will add here tasks or task list, and I will use material card for that. So mat card will be used for that. I will store those in a material card. End of tasks list. So to add those tasks, I will create the list here, and once again I will use material list here. So later we will import all of these into our shared model, so you will see that this will work from material itself. So material list should hold the, obviously list items. So I will add a mat list item, and here I could pass few things. For example, first of all, we could pass mat icon here, and we will use task icon here. Then I will make some spacing here. I will add, for example, div with attribute.mat line, which will serve us as a mat line for this list. You will see that later how it looks on our screen, and it will hold a task title 1. Then another div, again mat line, and it will be task description 1. And after that I will have two buttons, icons. So I will use mat icon here, and the icon itself will be edit icon. This will serve us to edit our task. And here I will add another mat icon, and this icon will serve us to delete our tasks. So I will add delete here. So I will copy this 2 more times. 1, 2. Let me change task title 2, task description 2, task title 3, task description 3. Now, as you know, we will need to go into shared model here and import those. First of all, here I will add mat card module. Then I will add mat list module. Then I will add mat icon model right here. I could also export these modules here, and we still didn't import those. To import my mat card, I will use import mat card module from @angular/material/card. To import mat list module, I will use import mat list module from @angular/material/list. And to import my mat icon module, I will use import mat icon module from @angular/material/icon. And that is it. Before doing anything, I will need once again to close my local server and just run once again ng serve. So those modules will be in this next build of our application. So now to see our tasks on our screen, I will go into app component here and just here add app tasks component that we generated earlier. On my screen, what I can see here, I have task title, task description 1, 2 and 3, and on the right side I have that task icon with that, the two icons next to it, like edit icon and delete icon. So the material components are working also here. But let's style this a bit now. So in my tasks HTML, I will open up the CSS for this, and here I will first target my mat card, and I will display that as flex. Then I will put the width of that card to be 50% and margin to be 50% pixel on the top and bottom, and auto on left and right, so it will be in the center of my screen. Now next to that mat card, I will style also my mat list a bit, and I will just put the width of it to be 100%, so basically to spread through entirety of that card, and cursor will be pointer. After this, I will go into the HTML, and here wherever I have my mat icon, on all of those icons, I will grab all of those and just add one attribute here, which is mat list icon. And now we are able to go into our browser back. In my browser, we can see that task icon is here on the left side of the task. There is a text for the tasks themselves, and there is edit and delete button on the right side, which looks solid, I guess. So now that we have the UI for our tasks themselves, we can start working with our API. To do that, we need first to get that link from our API. So I will store that link in my environments folder and environment TypeScript file. Here, I'm not using prod environment, I'm using the staging environment right here. So after this production set to false, I will put comma, and here I will use API URL, and I will set that. This should be set to our local host from our Nest.js. And as you know, we are running Nest.js on localhost port 3000. So I will use HTTP here, //localhost colon 3000 for the port. And this will be our API URL. Next to that API URL, we should also generate our service here. Service will basically chat with our API. We will dispatch requests through our service. We will get responses also through our service here. So I will do that by generating ng generate as for service, and it will be called tasks. I could also use skip tasks here for this service. Going back to my code, let me close all of my files here. Also close all of the folders. In my source and my app, I have this task service on app level. I will just move this to the tasks themselves right here, where my task component is. And in my service here, I'm able now to import that environment and use that API URL. So to do that, here I will import an environment from // once again, environments folder, environment itself. And if I wish to use that API URL, I will create here variable API URL will be set to environment.API URL that we created on that environment. First thing that we wish to do is to get those tasks from the API. For example, here I could set comment of get tasks in my service and create the method called get tasks, and here we should do something. This method will return to me observable. That observable should be imported from RxJS, and this observable will be the type of something. That something will be called task. As I am getting all the tasks, it will return the array of tasks to me. Currently, I don't have these tasks, this task model created, so let's do that. In my tasks here, I will create the new file, and I will name this file task.model.ts. This model file will export interface to me. Interface will be called task, and what should our task hold? If you watched my last video where we created the task API, you would see basically there what task is holding. It holds ID, which is not important, so I will put this question mark, so it is kind of the optional, because when we creating our task, we don't know the ID that will be set there. So we will create the task without the ID, and the backend will generate that ID, the Nest.js. Go down in the description, watch the last video of mine, you will see that task, how the task itself is created and how we are generating that ID. So this ID will be the type of string. Then it will also hold the title, which is also type of string, and description, which is also type of string. And that's it. Going back to my service now, here where I have task itself, I could just import task model from task model file. So now to get these tasks, we will need to use something called HTTP. Angular has its own HTTP model that we could use. To use that, I will go into app.model.ts, and in my imports, after my shared, I will just add HTTP client model here, which will import that from angular/common/http, and in my service, here in a constructor, I could use private HTTP here, for example, and set it to be HTTP client itself. So we are now using that HTTP client from Angular. So here I will return something, obviously, because I should return observable of task array, and I will return that from this .http dot, and here we have different methods. As we are getting the tasks, we will dispatch get method here, and this get method will have, I will put this ticks right here, so basically we could put something inside with the placeholder from ES6. First of all, we will hit our API URL. So API URL, and now slash tasks, and that is it. It is red because I didn't use this .api URL here. Sorry, this .api URL currently doesn't know that these tasks that we will get back are really the task array. So here, next to task array, we will also set any. So either it will return task array to us or any type here. So now to get these tasks, we will go into tasks component.ts. Here, we should first import our service. So private tasks service will be set to a type of tasks service. So after my ng-on init, I will use get tasks comment here and create get tasks method here. This get tasks method will basically talk with our service. So this .tasks service .get tasks. As it returns the observable to us, we are able to subscribe to it. So subscribe, and it will return two things to us. First of all, we will get response, which is type of task array, and if we get that response, here I will just console.log response. This task should be imported as a model here at the top. Here it is, and if we don't get response in other way, we will get the error itself. So error right here. If we get the error, we will just console.log error, so we could handle it later when we get one. So to run these get tasks, here on ng-on init, I will just use this .get tasks, because we should run this upon visiting our page. So now, if I would refresh my page, nothing is different because this is static data here. If I inspect my element here, I go to console tab, here I will have the array of 3 tasks that is passed to us through our backend. Now that we have this array, we could render this data on our task list that we have on our frontend. Going back to my task component, I will open up my HTML, and here where I have my mat list items, I will remove 2 of those, and I will, on my one item, use directive of ng4. So I will loop through my tasks. So here I will use let task of tasks, and first of all, I should create those tasks. To create these tasks, I will go back to my TypeScript file, and here I will have tasks with the type of task array, which is initially empty array. And here where I'm getting those tasks, I will use here this .tasks is equal to response itself. So going back to HTML, here where I'm looping through those tasks, instead of static title, here I will have task.title, and instead of description, I will have task.description. That is it. So now if we visit our browser, we can see dynamic data here, which are another task for the third task, which is a wash a car title, task number 1, simple task for my app. So those are all titles and description that are coming from our backend side. So first of all, in my last video, we worked on update task as a last method. Here I will do that as a first method. So to do that, here where I have this edit, I will add event here, which will be the click event, and this click event will run edit task method, which I will create soon, and I will just pass that task to that method. So to create this edit task method, I will create it below my get tasks. So edit task comment, edit task method, which will get the task itself, which is the type of a task, and here how I wish to edit my task. I will basically open up the dialog from material, and there on the dialog I will have fields with editable task fields. To do that, I will go into my shared module right here, and in my module I will add that dialog module, that form module that we wish to have, that we should have to edit our tasks, also the input module and a button module its own. So here I will add math dialog module, then math form field module, then math input module, and finally math button module. As usual, I could export those right here, and let's import those here at the top. To import those modules, I will use import, first of all, dialog module here, math dialog module from @angular/material/dialog. Then I will import form module, import math form module from @angular/material/form field, and I will import here math input module from @angular/material/input right here, and finally that math button module. Import math button module from @angular/material/button. And that is it. Those are all the modules that we will have. So here, as usual, we will have the error on the left side. So let's close our local host, clear that a bit. Let me also clear this middle view. First of all, let's generate that task dialog. We will use custom component for that. We won't just open up the dialog on our task component. So here I will generate ngg for generate, c for component, and component will be task dialog. I will just pass skip tests right here. So on my left side, I'm able now to run ng-serve, and let's go back into our code. Let's quickly close all the files up, close also all the folders. In my app, I have that task dialog component with task dialog works text. To open up this component, we should open it up once we click on that pen icon to edit our task itself, to edit the title and description for it. For that, in HTML, we have the click event of edit task method, and we also, in our task component here, prepared that method to run. First of all, let's create the dialog itself. After my task service here, I will import private dialog, which will be math dialog itself, which should be imported from Angular material/dialog. Here I will use it. I will store it in a dialog reference. This is usual workflow with the dialog itself. So const of dialog ref will be equal to this.dialog, and here I will run open method. So I'm opening up that dialog. Dialog that I wish to open is task dialog component. So I will open this component inside of that dialog. Here I could pass different things. For example, I could pass width to that dialog. Width will be set to 600 pixel. Next one, I could also pass the data here. So data could be just the task that I'm getting upon the clicking on that icon. Basically, I will pass that data to dialog, and this component will be able to render that data and change that data. So after this is done, I will use this dialog ref. Here down below, I will use dialog ref that after closed. This method will run once we close our dialog. To that we could subscribe. We will get some result back. So here I will get some result which will be type of any, because we don't know correct type of this result. So here, what I could do, I will just console.log that result so we could see it what we are getting back. To test this out, I am on my browser, I could just click on my pen and we could see that we are opening that up. We have task dialog works here and this is it. We could close it up upon clicking outside of it. And yeah, this works. But now let's go to task dialog component, TypeScript file of it, and just work with it a bit. We should also integrate that dialog reference here so we could get that data into our dialog itself and render that data on our screen. To do that, here on my constructor, I will add private dialog ref, which will be the type of mat dialog ref, so material dialog reference, and this will have a generic type of task dialog component. So this component belongs to that reference. And I will also here use inject. Inject should be auto imported here from Angular/core. And what I will inject mat dialog data. And this mat dialog data should be imported from Angular material dialog. And this data will be set to public data with type of any, because this data won't hold just our task, it could hold multiple things, whatever we passed through that reference. But with this we are getting that data inside of our dialog. So we will have two methods to handle that data. We will be able to just close the dialog with the close button, and we will also be able to save the data. Once we edit the data, we could just save it. So here, close dialog, which will be close method, and this close method will use just this dialog ref dot close, and that's it, literally. And for saving the data, I will put save data comment, and here I will use save method, and this save method will use this dialog ref dot close once again, but this time it will pass this data here. So whatever we get here, we get into this task dialog component, we could edit it. Once we click on a save button, which we will create soon, once we click on that button, it will just pass that edited data back to the tasks component where we could render it differently. So now that we have set up for our task dialog here, let's create those form fields that we will have here to edit the task itself. First of all, I will put h1 with the attribute of mat dialog title, and it will hold edit task simply. So here, basically after this title, I will have a div with mat dialog content attribute, and here we could have, well, form fields. I will use div once again to store mat form field right here. This form field should hold mat label like this, and this first label will just say task title here. Then after the label I will have input field, which is normal input field with type of text. I will also put mat input here, so this input knows that it belongs to material styling. I will also put placeholder with task title for a placeholder, and one thing that we could pass here is ng model like this. So ng model will basically two-way data bind our data here. And which data I wish to pass? I wish to pass data that task that I have on my data and title of the task. I will copy this div now and paste it down below, and here instead of title use description. Then type text is okay, mat input attribute is okay, placeholder will also say description, and here instead of binding my title I will bind description right here. And after this mat dialog content I will have another div with mat dialog actions. These actions should hold the buttons that will close or save the data from this dialog. First button will hold the mat met button attribute, and it will, upon a click, so click event here, it will run close method that we have, and this will be, the text in it will be just close. Let me copy this like this, and here, instead of just passing the save button, save text should be for that button, I will remove all of those, and just here below I will put one below another because I will have probably multiple fields here. I will first put mat raised button, so this is different styling from material itself, you will see how. So also I will have disabled field here, so I will disable this button if my data.task.title is equal to an empty string, so we won't be able to click on that button, or data.task.description is equal to an empty string. So if one of those fields is empty, we won't be able to update the task itself. So I will also put the color here. Color could be primary and just a different color from a close button. And now I will run click event, which will run save method for me. And all of this is good, but here we are using ng model, and for that we will need to go to app module right here, and just in my imports add forms model like that. I think this will be it, but let me also go quickly to task dialog here and into CSS and just target at mat form field and just put the width of it to 100 percentages, so that those will spread through entirety of their divs. So now I am on my browser. Let me quickly refresh, inspect element here, open up the console just to check everything up. If I click on this wash a car, what we can see here, there is edit task title, there is task title and task description with exact texts for them. There is close and save. I will move this later on the right side to look nicer. If I close this now, on my right side I can see undefined here, because we are just closing our dialog, we are not passing any data. If I open up once again and I save now, we can see the data back with that task itself. If I open up once again and instead of this wash a car, we can see that first of all, if this title is empty, we won't be able to click on this save. But here I will put task name instead of wash a car and save now. We will see that task will have a title as a task name. Obviously, if I refresh the screen, it will return back to wash a car because we didn't save that task name, task title. So let's go back and set up our functionality to work fully. So going back, I will go first to task dialog component. Here where I have my buttons, I will add here a line and I will set it to end. So this will move my buttons to the right side of that dialog. And from here I can go into task component, here where I'm logging my result. I will do my functionality here. First of all, I could have result as undefined. So if I don't have result here, I will just return from this point on. There is no reason to continue and edit that task with empty data. But if I have this result, I will use here this .tasks service .edit task. Still, we don't have this task here. We don't have this edit task method on our tasks service. But I will pass here result .task. Basically, I will need to pass that the task with fields that are edited. So let's create this edit task quickly. Go into service, task service, and after this get tasks, I will use edit task comment here and edit task method. This method will obviously accept that task, which is type of task. It will return to me observable with generic type of task or any type, as we did for the get tasks up there. And here we will use return this .http, so we are making normal call here. This will be a patch call because we are using patch to patch data from our task. Here I will use this .api URL, then /tasks, and once again /, and I should get that exact task by that ID. So here I will use task.id, and one more attribute that I need to pass here is basically the task itself, the edited task that I need to pass for my edit task. So once this is run, I will go back to my task component here. I could subscribe to that obviously, so .subscribe, and back I will get response with type of a task, and I will just console.log edited task, comma, task that I get back, not the task, sorry, but the response. If this is not the case, if I have the error in any case, so error I will just basically console.log here. I will log, well, error itself, so we could debug if there is any error. So now in my browser, let's inspect, go to console quickly, and let's edit this wash a car. Edit, task to edit will be title, and description could be description to edit as example. So save here, and we have course problem here. So with that enable course that we used on our Nest.js, we enabled some of the calls to that Nest API, but obviously we didn't enable all, and that is good because we wish mostly our API to be private. It is just for our projects, obviously. So I have here plugin installed which will basically allow me to run my course basically to go over the course itself. So I will just close this down and let me refresh the page quickly, and let's do the same thing. Wash a car will be task to edit, and description will be description to edit. Now save, and we get back edited task. We can see that task here on our browser is changed. Let me zoom in. Here it is. And here on my console, let me zoom the console. We have description to edit. There is the ID of that task. There is a title. Everything looks good. So now, if I even refresh the page, I will get back still that task to edit and description to edit. So the data for that task is fully editable. Well, it was fully edited and saved on our API. So once again, if you are getting that course problem like I did, try install the plugin for course. This is good for debugging in overall. You could basically open and close course requests and basically handle that just to debug and make sure that your API is correctly working. For me, obviously API works correctly because it blocked me out from the patch request, so I used this kinda just to move around it a bit, but it is good to have this in most cases for debugging purpose. Now that we handled that edit task, once we are saving the task basically, once we are editing that, I'm just logging the data here. Maybe you could close that dialog and then open another dialog as an alert, kinda just as a message that task was edited. So maybe something to think about. Do it on your own, try to test your skills. Next thing that we will do through this video is delete a task. Once I click on delete icon, I wish to delete that task from my API and also from my front-end side. So to do that, once again I will close all of the editors and all of the files and folders here. I will open up my source, app, and tasks component here. So once we click on this delete icon, I will use click event, and there I will use delete task method, which we will create soon. To that task method, I will just pass task that I just clicked. Copy this task method, go into TypeScript file, and after this edit task, after that I will here use delete task method. We will get back task with the, well, its model is task, and this will be, yeah, we could set here void here, because it will return nothing for us. It will be just the void function. We can do that for everything here. For example, edit task will also be void here. Get task will also be void, because it's not returning anything to us. It is just the method that it is. It's not returning anything to us. On my task service, we have specific type. We have observable type here. Obviously, this is not the void. It is returning observable data to us. And if I go to task dialog, here this is not returning anything. So I could again use void, even though we are targeting this reference from dialog and we are passing data back, we are not returning that data through TypeScript. So void also here. So let's go back to component ts, TypeScript file, these tasks, and here to delete my task, I will use this dot task service dot delete task. This method I still don't have, I need to create that one. I will just pass task here. So copy this and go to my service. After my edit task, I will add delete task comment. And down below, I will use delete task method, which will get the exact task, which will be the task type. It will return back to me observable. And this observable will be string, or, sorry, I mistyped the string, or any. Basically, when we are deleting the task itself on our API, we set upon deleting to return just the ID of the deleted task. That's why it's a string data type here. So to delete the task, here I will use return this .http .delete call. This delete call will use my API, so this .api URL, now /tasks and /dynamic ID from the task, so task.id here. One thing that I need to pass here, this should work as this. This will work without the problem, but you will get weird error on your side. That error will be that it kinda cannot resolve the string data back, because usually HTTP will send JSON data to API and get back JSON data. So it works with JSON data as default, but if we are returning the text data back, the string data, then we should set that response type here. So here I will use object and set response type to be text, and with this you won't have that error. If you try it without this, you will have the error. It will still delete the task. Once you refresh the page, it will still delete that task, but you won't be able to handle this because it will basically return the error to you back. So now with this response type set, this should work correctly, and I will go back to my tasks component ts. Here I will subscribe to that usually. Subscribe. I will get response back with type of a string, because we are getting that ID back, and I will just console.log task deleted, comma, well, that response. That is it. And here, if I have any error, sorry, mistyped, error, I will just console.log that error basically, so we could debug. Okay, so I maybe don't wish to console log this here, because we are removing data on the backend side. We won't know that we are also removing data on front-end side. We should show the user that task is deleted. So let's delete the task also on the front-end side, but we will delete it here in our response, because if we get to this response, that means that our request worked perfectly. So here I should get the correct index of the task and remove the task from the tasks array by that index. So here const of index will be equal to this tasks.index of, and I will use the task to get the index of that task. So now that I have here that correct index, I will use this tasks splice, and I will splice by the starting number. You can see there is a starting number and delete count. Starting number will be index, and delete count is basically how much items do I wish to delete after this index. I just wish one item to delete, so that is that index, and this is it. So now going back to my browser, I could remove, for example, this task to delete, task to edit that we just edited. So click on that icon. Here it is. Remove one more. Here it is. If I even refresh the page, I will get just one task back because I deleted 2 of my tasks. So going back to my tasks, we are left just to do one thing. And that one thing is to create a task. So here I could just do this, well, basic, but we will integrate the reactive forms here. So we will bind our tasks to dynamic data in our TypeScript. So I will also show you that here. First of all, what I should do is before this tasks list, I will add comment of create task, and here I will use another material card. At the end of this card, I will put comment of end of create task, and here what I wish to do is basically to create the form which will basically be used for creation of our tasks. So for that I will use form field. Action is not needed currently, we will add something else later, but inside you will have math form field. That form field will have math label, which will be task title, and it will have an input field which will be type of text. It will have a math input attribute. There is also a placeholder that should be task title, and this will be required to create our task. Later I will bind to form control, but for now no. So math form field, I will copy this once more. Here it will be task description, also for my placeholder task description, and also required. After my math form field here, I will use a button which will be basically math raised button. The type of a button will be submit. Color will be primary, that pink one, and just the text of a button will be submit here. That's it. Now, as I wish to create those reactive forms, I will go into my app module, and here after my forms module, I will add reactive forms module, and now I'm able to use those forms. So now in my task component, my TypeScript of that component, I could create that data for the model, that kind of mock-up of the form itself. So to use that after my tasks here, I will use task form. This task form will be set to be equal new form group. So form group should be imported from Angular/forms. Form group will accept the data here. First of all, there will be the title form input field, which will be new form control. So this is control for our form. So the initial data that it will hold, it will just be an empty string, and I will add in an array validator, which will be validators array. So validators that required. So this field is required to have to create our form. Now I will copy this, and down below, instead of title, I will use description right now, and this will be form control once again. This is empty initially, and validators also should be required. Now let's bind this data to our HTML. Here where I have my form, I will use form group, which will be set. This form group is coming from our reactive forms that we imported. This will be task form. So we created the task form group as a task form. Also here I will use the event now. This event won't be click or something like that. It will be a specific event for the form, which is ng submit. So with this event, we are able to create task. This will be the function that I will create soon enough. First of all, let's bind our fields here. So here for the title, I will bind this title with form control name, and this form control name will be set to title. As you know, we have that title as form control name. I will copy this, and down below this will be description. And now I will also disable my submit button. So this button should be disabled, and it will be disabled if this task form .valid. And I have this exclamation point which says basically if this task form is not valid. Now to create this task, here I should create that basically that method. So here before my get tasks, I will use create task comment and create task method, and this method, well, will return void to me back. So first of all, we should generate that task from the form itself. So const of task will be equal to, and it will have a title which will be set to this task form get, and we will get the value of title. So after these brackets I should use value right here. I will use also question mark because sometimes we won't have that value there. So we should check for that with this. So description will be set to this task form get, and here I will get the description here, and once again value of it. And that is it. We have our task here. Now to save our task, I will use this task service create task, which is method that we will create soon, and I will just pass that task to that create task method. So in my service now, before my get tasks here, I will use create task comment and create task method. This will get the task into that, which is the task type, and it will return observable type to us, which is basically it will have its own generic type. Generic type will be the task array or any. And here I will use that HTTP once again. To use HTTP, I will use return this .http.post method now, and here I will use again this .api URL /tasks, and here I should pass the body, and the body will be the task that we created through that form, so that task that we are passing here. Let's go back to our tasks component, and now that we have on our service this create task method, I could subscribe to that. So subscribe, it will get response back to us, which will be the type of any. And here what we should do, well, as we are getting the response back, this shouldn't be the type of any, sorry, I did that automatically, so this will be the task array. So as we are returning back task array here, I will just use that these tasks are equal to the response, well, basically that task array that we are getting back. And down below we have the error, maybe we could have the error depending what we will get from the API, and here I will just console log that error so we could debug it. And I just found one error here. I mistyped the task itself. I used the small t at the beginning. I should use the capitalized because I am passing the model here. And next to this task go into HTML, and here where we have mat input we use this not properly. This should be mat and then capitalized E or I, and now I will go back to browser, and on my browser this doesn't look good. I have that task list below, but this task title and description doesn't look good. There is the error here, which is good. This is automatically coming from the material because this is not valid form, but I wish to style this differently a bit. So for that I will go back to my tasks component CSS, and here I will use form, and I will set width on my form to be 100%, and I will also use mat form fields that I have there, which will be width to 100%. And now I will go back to browser. Now in my browser I have that task title, task description. Let's add the task title, for example, wash a car. Description could be as it is dirty, and submit. And there it is down below. If I refresh the page, it is still there. I could delete it. That's Good enough, I guess. So let's test everything now. Let's create a new task. New task title. And description could be new task description. Exactly. This submit is now able to be clicked. Let's click it. It is there. We didn't clear this form. Maybe if you wish, clear this form through reactive forms that we imported. Try that on your own. Here that I have task number 1, let me edit it to say task number 1 as a number, and simple task for my app will be task description number 1. Save. There it is. Refresh quickly. They are still there. And if I would delete the last task here, everything looks good enough, I guess. I think that this is it now. Feel free to explore around, maybe split content into more components, share data with input and output in Angular. Also, feel free to create more CRUD functionalities on Nest and Angular side, and that way make sure to really know both technologies. Once again, if you skipped my Nest.js video where we created the API for this application, task application, you can find the link to that video down below in the description. So make sure to watch that one also. So this will be all for this video. Thank you once again, and if you like what you saw, please click like and subscribe as I'm posting new content weekly. Thank you once again, and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.